We also interviewed Ike Wingate of the Ike Wingate Show. This guy, a conservative commentator, somebody that is on the right side of history. Robert and I interviewed him yesterday. We'll go to that interview here in just a bit as well, as soon as we get the directive on that. We do know that it was a great interview with him yesterday.
Oh yeah, really great to have all these voices out here in the new media, and Ike gives some great detail as to why he thinks President Trump is successful in the first few weeks here.
Exactly. So let's go to Ike Wingate from pretty recently. RSBN is Ike Wingate of the Ike Wingate Show. Sir, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Matthew. It's good to be with you guys.
Can you talk to us about your thoughts about the first month in office for President Trump? I mean, it's been pedal to the metal, hasn't it?
It's really the most difficult part of it is keeping up with it, especially in our business where every day you cover a litany of things and then you realize, oh, I didn't see this or that. So that's been the hardest thing, is catching my breath a lot of times. But it has been remarkable, in just to state it in a very simple way, because the amount of activity, for the longest time, I thought government was incapable of outpacing the speed of business. As a guy with a background in business and things like that, and understanding how slow the government typically is, I can't believe that I'm actually saying now in 2025 that in the first month of the Trump administration, government actually outpaced business, which I think is really telling. And the cuts and the bloat and waste and everything that's been discovered is a huge victory for smaller government and more freedom. And I've been pleased and actually very impressed and somewhat surprised at the pace.
Yeah, Ike, that's some great points you're making. So how does President Trump really send out that message in his address? Because, you will have some people watching in the prime time who are probably not catching, our shows as we watch this as politicos, each and every day, every minute of a nonstop news cycle. Not everyone's watching as closely as some others.
I think that's a great point, and you can't assume that everyone knows everything that is going on just by what we just talked about. It is simply the fact that even people that are in the business are struggling to keep up with everything. So I think he has to reset everything that has been done, protecting women or girls in sports, the things that have been discovered through DOJ, the executive orders to protect us, all the things that have happened at the border. He has a lot to cover. I think the big challenge is, can he stay on script to an extent? Because there's going to be plenty of boos regarding Ukraine and everything from the Democrats. And so I think that's going to be Donald Trump's biggest challenge, is staying in a timely manner on script. But he has to make sure that the majority of Americans understand just how effective, despite the liberal media undercutting him, he has been in this first few weeks of his administration.
Can you talk to us about why you got involved in politics like you have in the media space, just like we are? And what was it that really said, I have to do this for the American people?
I've always had an interest in politics and leadership, and I actually have been in media and business for a long time. I actually was able to found and then sell a media company. And then I had to ask my question, what would I do if I could do anything? And it was always going to be politics. What was interesting, though, is I have been creating my own show on Rumble and doing the whole online creator thing. And at one point, with traction sort of waning, I wondered, should I keep doing this? And then the assassination attempt happened in Butler, Pennsylvania last summer, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else. For the sake of freedom and making sure that people understand what's really going on out there, that's what thrust me back in, and it's the momentum has been great since then. But that's really the catalyst for me saying, this is absolutely what I need to be doing.
Yeah, it makes sense, because I think so many people have come to this movement over the course of the last decade because of common sense, because things were not really being transparent, both from Republican and Democrat past administrations. And I think we really saw that on display on Friday. What are some of your thoughts with Vice President Vance and President Trump really telling Zelensky how it was going to be and being willing to walk away from a deal that was on the table?
You're absolutely right, Robert. It is transparency. That's what I came away with. And what I said earlier today on my show is we needed to see that. We needed to understand just exactly what this administration and even the past administration has had to deal with when it comes to the stubbornness of President Zelensky. And so transparency is absolutely critical for trust in leadership. And what I saw there was Zelensky, a guy who played a president on TV before he was thrust into the position of president by a billionaire backer, mind you, basically playing a part. He didn't want a deal, and that was sniffed out pretty early on by Trump and Vance. And in fact, I thought Donald Trump was actually very self-controlled. There were many opportunities he could have pounced on Zelensky. He stayed measured and disciplined, and Vance just couldn't take it anymore. And I appreciate it because it needs to be called out. And as Frank Luntz has pointed out, a guy who doesn't really love Trump, the tide has shifted when it comes to Americans' tolerance for this never-ending war. The majority of Americans are tired of it and ready for it to be over, and they simply just voiced what the Americans are thinking in that meeting in front of the world.
Ike Wingate of the Ike Wingate Show. Sir, thank you for joining us on Right Side Broadcasting Network. We hope to see you again soon.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
Always a pleasure having Ike on the show with us to dive into the importance of what's going on right now and just give you a highlight of the pre-speech activity at the White House. I'm sure President Trump right now finalizing his comments.
Exactly.